Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. كيف حالكم? Boys and girls, this is Abdul Ahad, your physics teacher. Inshallah, for this year also, I'll be your physics teacher. I hope that you all are fine with good health and you are in the best level of Iman. I hope. And Alhamdulillah, you'll be happy that we have started online classes. Inshallah, we hope that we'll go back to school. We'll have classes as usual as how we had before, because of the current situation. You know what's happening around us. We are not able to go back to the school. Schools are shut, and even other things are also shut. But we hope that we will go back to the school, to the normal conditions, and we'll go back inshallah strong and bold inshallah. Okay, so let's get back to the subject, physics. So lastly we were discussing about a 14th chapter, which is regarding energy, right? So we discussed a couple of energies, for example kinetic energy, GPE, gravitational potential energy. We discussed a bit of that, and we discussed about how energy it gets transferred, right? So for example we learned about efficiency, conservation of energy, and also we learned about how to draw Sankey diagrams. I know we didn't go in detail in Sankey diagrams. I think that Sankey diagrams should be taught to you in the class on the board and help you out when you draw in front of me, that is in front of the teacher. That's going to be effective. So presently I'm going to skip that. Okay, the Sankey diagrams, how to draw in detail, inshallah we'll discuss later in the school, when the school reopens, inshallah. Okay, so now we move on to the next chapter, which is chapter 15, thermal energy. Okay, so this is a important chapter which you have to be well versed. It's easy enough, alhamdulillah. So let's move ahead and learn those concepts. See, basically this chapter, it's only about these three, that is, let me tell you, these three terms: conduction, convection, radiation. It's about these three terms. Okay, so we're gonna learn about these three terms, and we are going to go into the depth of these three terms. What does it mean, and what how they are there in our day-to-day life, how these are used in our day-to-day life, these concepts. Okay, so we are going to learn this more of these terms inshallah in this chapter. Okay, so I'm not going to read all these learning objectives. I want you to learn the learning objectives. Open your textbook, go to that page. The page number, I'll tell you, the page number is 139. Okay, so go to the book, page number 139, and go through the learning objectives. It's there in that page. Okay, so let's move ahead. One thing you need to always remember is that heat is a kind of energy. Okay, it's an energy that is stored in hot matter. That is, for example, you have anything hot, a hot pot, a hot vessel. When you touch it, you feel that it is hot. That means that substance has an energy in it. Okay, so that we call it as heat energy. Okay, so again we have to understand this heat energy in terms of a relative thing which is known as absolute zero. We have to remember it in a relative terms. See, there is a temperature which is known as absolute zero, that is the lowest possible temperature. Okay, that is the lowest possible temperature anything can have, and any matter that is above this temperature has some thermal energy. This is what we will say. Okay, see, again the heat energy is nothing but the kinetic energy of the minute particles which exist inside a substance. Okay, so it is the vibrational energy of the particles which are present inside the substance. Okay, so thermal energy, again this is very important. thermal energy is transferred from a place that is hotter to that which is colder. Okay, so this is a very important principle. You have to remember this always. Okay, we will see, we will understand this with an example, inshallah. Okay, and another concept which you need to remember is thermal conduction is a transfer of thermal heat. See, I told you that we are going to only discuss about three things: conduction, number one, number two is convection and radiation. So this statement is about conduction. So thermal conduction is the transfer of thermal heat energy through a substance by the vibration of the atoms within the substance. Okay, while the substance itself doesn't move. The substance doesn't move, but it's because of the vibration of the atoms within the substance. Okay, so say for example, when an object is hot, that's because the particles inside the object are vibrating, like anything. Okay, the more the object is hot, the more the vibration is inside the substance. Okay, so this is a very good example to explain to you this concept. So you might be knowing, what is this? This is a barbecue. Okay, so these are the rods, these are the metal rods, otherwise known as the metal skewers. Okay, so the meat is, it is sticked onto these rods, and the rods are kept over fire to cook the food. Okay, so you will notice that if you keep your finger at this tip, you will feel the heat. Why? Whereas the fire is at the center. The fire is heating the rod on its center, on its center, right? But how you feel the heat at the tip of the rod? And this is because of conduction. Okay, so when the rod gets heated at this particular area, the heat gets transferred from here to here. Okay, so this is the place where the rod is hot. Okay, and comparatively this area is cool. So how will be the transfer from the hot region to the cold region? Okay, this is how the heat gets transferred to the colder region, that is to this tip of the rod. So basically, this tip of the rod, or the other end of the rod might have a wooden handle. Okay, this is how this is being handled by a person, by the cook who cooks the food in this way, because he could not twist or turn these metal skewers without having a wooden handle, because it will be hot, very hot. Okay, that will be very difficult to handle. Okay, so this is what these statements says, which is there in the textbook. You might read these statements, which are there in the next page, 140. Yes, it's there in the 140. I have just showed you, I am showing you these statements. Okay, now you have to go ahead and read all these statements. I have explained to you the concept, how these metal skewers, they allow the heat to get transferred to the other parts away from the heat. Okay, so just read all these concepts. Okay, so this is a practical, it's an investigation method. It's based on practicals. It's an activity. Okay, so how it is done, let me tell you. Okay, the construction, these are two rods. Okay, these are two rods actually, two different rods. This one, the rose color one, the pink one is the copper one, and the white colored rod is the steel rod. This is the copper rod, and this is the steel rod. Okay, so this is the area where the fire is present. So when the fire heats up these rods, what happens is, the rods, they get heated up. But before that, let me tell you that these rods are waxed. That is wax. There is a wax coating on these rods. Okay, and these four pins on the either side of the rods, on both the rods, they are stick to the wax. These four pins. Okay, four at each of the rod is fixed. Okay, they are stick actually. So when the fire heats up the rods, the wax, it begins to melt, and these pins, eventually they might fall. Okay, and how do they fall? They fall in a sequential manner. That is, this pin which is immediate next to the heat, that is next to the fire, it falls first, then this one falls, that is, this is the next to fall, the second one to fall, this is the third one to fall, and this is the fourth one to fall. Okay, so this is known as sequential falling or dropping off. So what do you understand by this? You understand by this that the heat is getting transferred from this area to that area, that is from the hot region to the cold region. Okay, so this is what exactly happens, and this happens before the pins which are connected to the steel rod fall. That means that the copper rod gets hotter faster than the steel rod. Okay, so this will also mean that this copper rod, okay, is better, it's a better conductor, than the steel rod. That is, it conducts more, it conducts heat more faster than the steel rod. Okay, so in this through this experiment we understand two things here. That is, number one, that the heat get transferred sequentially from the hotter region to the colder region, number one, and number two, that we can also understand from this experiment that copper is a best conductor and copper is a better conductor than the steel. Okay, so this is what is the experiment is all about. This is a very good experiment which shows us two things, two very very important things: how heat transfers, and which is the best metal for heat conduction, that is for transferring heat through conduction. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so you might read all these things as well in your textbook about free electrons. Free electrons are electrons that are not connected with any particular atom in the structure of a substance. See why the book is telling you about free electrons is free electrons are those electrons which keep on moving in and out inside the metal. Okay, so and these are also responsible for heat transfer, okay, for the vibration and heat transfer. Okay, these electrons, they collide with each other, and this is how they transfer this kinetic energy throughout the substance, and this is how finally the heat is transferred. And finally, okay, we have to remember these things, these 3 points. Solids and metals are the best conductors. Okay, when it comes to conduction, solids and metals are the best, gases are the worst. In other words, air is the worst conductor. Okay, so when you have air, it conducts in the worst way. It doesn't conduct heat properly. Number two is a vacuum also doesn't allow conduction to happen. Okay, so even vacuum doesn't allow conduction to happen, doesn't allow the heat transfer to happen. Number three, a poor conductor is called as an insulator. Okay, so what is the meaning of insulator? Insulator is that thing which doesn't conduct heat, okay, which is a poor conductor of heat. Okay, so these are the 3 points which you have to remember. And also we will next class we'll discuss about air. Okay, how air is a worst conductor and a good insulator. Okay, so we'll discuss that in the next class, inshallah. Until tomorrow, this is enough. And also I'll give you some quick questions in the Google Classroom. You have to answer the questions, and I'll be giving you certain marks for that, inshallah. Okay, so let me tell you how we are going to go about this. The first thing is I will be posting an assignment. This is the assignment, this video. So you have to watch this video. Then I'll be posting a question on this video. Based on this video, you will be having a few questions. You have to answer those questions. Okay, so kindly go through the video, answer the questions, and submit to me until tomorrow 8 a.m. inshallah. Okay, so until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.